This game came out in 2019, huh? Before the C-Virus was released into the public. So, Resident Evil 2 got a remake a few years ago. It was pretty well received and I enjoyed my two playthroughs, or one if you consider the B-run part of one playthrough, as well. I thought it was a good game overall, except a few nitpicks I have, which I'm gonna get into later in this video. Let me preemptively say that in this video, I'm gonna be talking about my experience with the game. I'm probably not gonna blow your mind when it comes to this title. Neither am I gonna break new ground or discover something that hasn't already been discovered or said about this game, since I'm kinda 3 years late for that. This is just gonna be me talking about the game, basically reviewing it. I should also prefix this video by saying I have not played the original. I was practically going in blind, except some stuff I knew about Mr. X because of memes. I just had to make my own version of that. Now let's get into it. The opening sections of the game are very cinematic. I'm not saying that not only because they are very well directed, but also because the whole setting, literally, how the game sets itself up, feels like out of a movie. The only thing missing would be Leon and Claire stopping at a motel and getting hunted down by Mr. X right then and there before driving into Raccoon City, the place where all of this game takes place. Raccoon City is also home to Umbrella, the returning evil corporation doing evil stuff for nonsensical reasons. We're also responsible for all the chaos in the first 3 mainline entries in the series. One thing I found weird is how immediately Leon and Claire are so calm and not put off by the situation at all. Maybe they had their mental breakdowns during the car ride, which gets skipped. I don't know. By the way, I did Leon's run first and Claire second, so Leon A and Claire B. Once we run past the devastated streets of Raccoon City full of zombies, we reach the police station. Now that I've used that word, has that word ever been used in the game? Zombies, I mean. They are referred to as infected a few times by some formal notes, I believe. Yeah, that's the type of stuff that gets me thinking. Anyway, the police station has an incredibly creepy atmosphere. The lighting is scarce and music is only there in the oh shit moments. What oh shit moments I'm gonna explain later. If you think the first Resident Evil entry had some creepy lighting, holy, you're in for a surprise. The entire building is as well lit as the way when you're throwing out the trash at night. Almost nothing but the light ray projected by your flashlight is visible, which in combination with how well the camera work is done makes for a very effective replacement of the dread-filled door loading screens from the classic RE. I'm just amazed that they managed to translate the anxiety of going through doors and turning corners into this modernized version of the game. The calming music in the safe rooms are back, and once again they mark the only rooms with some few exceptions in the police station where you truly can rest, and don't have to worry about some bastards jumping you. What type of bastards, you might wonder? Well, for starters, how about we talk about those damn lickers? These damned Jimmy Neutron brain-sized blind as bats frog-tongued bastards are probably the single most frightening foes you can encounter. These bitches are basically blind but extremely reactive to sound. So instead of running away from danger in this game, like your instinct and the game mechanics tell you to do, you have to sneak around them, very slowly. Keep this in mind for later. Although they might be the scariest enemies you are faced with, that really depends on who you're asking. For most of the game's runtime, I myself feared Mr. X the most. To explain why, I should probably introduce you to dear Sir X here first though. He's this game's tyrant, basically. The tyrant you faced at the end of the first game. But this time around he's not just the end boss, no. He has clear orders by his superiors at Umbrella, which is to wipe out any survivors from this Raccoon City outbreak. Since there aren't many survivors around, he's after you specifically. After a certain point in the game, the tyrant will relentlessly hunt you down. I gotta say it is one of the coolest things an enemy does to you in any game. Don't get me wrong here, I know that sounded sus, let me clarify what I mean. This fucker caused me literal nightmares. I can't remember the last time I thought about what happened to me in a game before going to sleep. Mr. X reminded me that I used to do that. The amount of stress and anxiety this guy causes you is insane. In a good way, in an exciting way. After this point where he lifts the helicopter out of the way, he is constantly on your ass, almost never leaving you alone. Even when he's not on screen directly, you hear his footsteps throughout the hallways. the staircases. In safe rooms, you will be waiting till the air is clean. You'll be trying to guess if he's above you or on the same floor as you. It's insane how much pressure this guy puts on you by simply roaming the halls. What might be a simple 1-minute route to your goal you want to take can become an entire marathon across the mansion because this bastard showed up at the wrong place at the wrong time. There are a few ways to make your way safer though. The classic method would be to stack up on ammo and healing and kill everything on your path, obviously. Is it smart? Sometimes. Sometimes it is. That's for you to decide. There are places where you only go once and never again, where it might be smarter to just run past everything or even tank the damage. And then there are places that you cross a lot of times, where it would be smarter to just kill everything. Ultimately, it's your call. I found myself hoarding ammo too much and had very little healing going into the later parts of the game, although I was never completely out of them. Ammo is most likely not gonna be a problem unless you really go in everywhere guns blazing. Direct ammo is rarely found, but there is plenty of gunpowder lying around for you to use to make that precious ammo that you're gonna need. Then there are ways to close off these windows with wooden boards like it's Black Ops Zombies mode. Obviously that's only useful in the police station and only on the ground floor. There are no flying undead just yet. Memorizing the layout of the mansion is pretty much essential. Don't get me wrong, even if you have the mansion memorized, you're probably gonna sit there and look at the map a lot on your first few playthroughs. But the game presents memorable places and spots where you can't pass at first, and once you find the item you need to remove the given obstacle, and as you open up more and more of the map, that feeling of conquering this horrifying hellhole slowly creeps up on you. It feels very Metroidvania-esque in that regard. And I explained all of that just to tell you that Mr. X exists to destroy all of that. Once you learn how to circumvent all the danger the game puts you up against, this bastard activates himself. Bullets don't work, you are not killing him. You can slow him down, yes, but all you are doing is force him to do the "I'll be back" on you. You know what happens after that scene, right? Yes. And that is precisely where memorizing the map comes in. Instead of panic running from him and delaying the route to your goal, you can find another way. In the best case scenario, that is. Worst case, you run into a room and there are lickers. And this is the exact scenario you really don't want to be in. With Mr. X chasing you like a Discord mod does underage girls, you wanna run away faster than a League player from sunlight. But then you run into a room and there's a licker and sometimes even multiple that demand of you to go slow and hold your fire, because they will jump at you the instant you make a loud noise. Those instances are the ones you will truly have a heart attack. Like the first time that happened to me, I was flabbergasted. What am I supposed to do? Like I was spamming the map button just to take a moment to breathe and to think about what just happened. And what I could do. Honestly, the only thing you can do is just take the damage and run, or use everything you have to clear a path in that case. The one thing that this game gets is that experience through gameplay is way scarier than anything you can be shown through cutscenes. The only cutscene you get involving Mr. X is the very first one where he's teased. All the other times you see him is all gameplay. You have full control of yourself while all of that happens, and it changes your perception of him as a danger completely. He's not a threat to your character, he's a threat to you. And the same thing counts for all enemies really. After you manage to survive the police station, you get out of the parking lot to the sewers. In between the first time you exit the station to the parking lot and exit the parking lot entirely, your first boss fight against Birkin that drags on for way too long, and you meet Ada Wong, who claims to be an FBI agent who is here to investigate these matters or something. Mr. X then fake dies. I mean, did you really think that killed him? You encounter the gun shop owner Kendo, whose daughter is infected, which is probably, unexpectedly, the best scene in the game. All they want is to be left alone,
Why him?
and then the deafening gunshot. Man, this one was tugging at the heartstrings. While entering the sewers, there's this giant alligator encounter. An entire section where you play as Ada, which felt kinda like a Batman Arkham game. You go further into the sewers, and that was the point in the game where that fear of Mr. X started to creep up my back again. This bastard really traumatized me, man. The sewers don't really have that much to them. They're mostly straightforward, and you go through everywhere probably up to a maximum of 2 or 3 times. The sewers work as a level, but not so much as a proper follow-up to the police department. And honestly, that's a good thing. Then Leon and Ada enter the cable car, which leads to an underground lab. Ada traps Leon into wanting that agent pussy. A goosey. Eventually, you enter the evil top-secret underground lab, and man, the atmosphere there is on another level. It looks a bit generic, I guess, since there really isn't anything memorable about it, but it works well as a scary lab stereotype final level. It is a pretty short but punishing level, as these flower zombies can one-shot you. Luckily, this game has an autosave feature before pulling bullshit like this. Otherwise it would get really old really fast. This is the place where you don't need to save on ammo, honestly. You just feel that you're getting close to the ending and blasting everything with your strongest weapons feels good. All the hoarding ammo and healing and tactical play is thrown out the window here. The game is basically even telling you to do that with this specific liquor room here, with a bunch of zombies behind you and 2 lickers up front. They die to like 3 shotgun shots once you power up the shotgun, so that moment of release is satisfying like nothing else. Although there might be one moment that is more satisfying than that. After feeling accomplished that I played through my run with Leon, I was kinda holding back on the Claire run, as I wasn't sure if it really was gonna be different enough to warrant another playthrough. I decided to do it anyway, and honestly, it wasn't worth it to play it again, for the Claire run that is. This game is very solid in its mechanics, so even in repeat playthroughs it stays fun to play, since now you know all the tricks the game has up its sleeve and can show your mastery over it. Once the scare factor goes away, you are left with a solid action game slash Metroidvania title in its early parts. You might even say you dominating the things you were once scared of feels cathartic. So to reiterate, the Claire run is not different enough to warrant another playthrough of its own, but it's not like it's exactly the same. There are some key differences, like instead of meeting Ada, Claire meets Sherry, the daughter of basically the game's villains, the Birkins. Instead of an Ada Arkham section, there's a short intermission where Sherry gets kidnapped by the police chief Irons, and she has to try and escape and hide from him. Other than that, Mr. X gets introduced much faster to Claire, and Claire's run starts off much faster in general. Since the game knows at this point that you played it once already, it can drop you into the action and leave you to your tools. The station is a little more open to her since she has a different entry point, and technically Leon was already at some of these places and should have opened them for you. Which is not the case at all though. It's a little jarring, honestly. Both of you are trapped in the same claustrophobic place, yet you never run into each other, nor do you feel any effect of the other person's existence. Sometimes you'll find the letter of the other character, but ultimately you basically do everything all over again as Claire or Leon, depending on who you picked first. You even fight the same bosses in the same order and do the same puzzles all over again. One thing to differentiate Claire from Leon are the weapons. Instead of a shotgun, she gets a grenade launcher, for example. She gets way too many different types of pistols for my liking though, that also all have different types of ammo, so managing all of that got kinda old fast. Maybe the Claire run was worth it for this scene alone though. By the way, the reason why this monster is chasing Sherry is because it's looking to impregnate people with similar genes with its virus. And his daughter is the closest host. That's kinda fucked up, isn't it? Well, what else is there to be said? There are some instances where the game bullshits you. For example, when you're surrounded by zombies, you can kiss your ass goodbye. You are getting comboed to death basically. But that is pretty rare and also kinda realistic, that it doesn't sting too much. Realistic because if infected and other monsters were to pile up on you in real life, you wouldn't have any iframes to escape, would you? Although, what even is real about these infected? Let's not get into that. Jump scares are far and few in between, but they are well used. They're not the sole factor that is supposed to scare you. It builds on top of what is already there. Other than that, this game is solid AF. Obviously, I don't know how well it compares to its original, but on its own, I see why the game was received so well. And it's another game in the RE engine, so that's a win. This game showed me that being scared can be fun, like really exhilarating. And I'm already excited to grit my teeth into RE3 Remake on my Resident Evil journey. I heard a lot about Nemesis and how he behaves in the original, and I'm very curious how he was handled in the remake. I know that the remake is not looked back on fondly, but I will find that out for myself once I play it, whenever that will be. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time as well.